Before we start this video, I'd just like to say thanks to Hillbilly Stormtrooper, one of my True Believer patrons on Patreon, for requesting this video. If you'd like to request a video, visit patreon.com/thebirdman to find out how. Oh no, you roped Kevin Smith into this. Reading. Sinning iconic things for the sake of padding the sin count.
Stormtroopers with infamous bad aim somehow managed to actually kill enough rebel soldiers here to take over the ship.
This is a myth that really needs to die. Stormtroopers are actually very well trained and are comprised of really great marksmen. This scene here is proof of that, and you're ignoring it because memes.
They survived this.
Okay, but you just sinned the Stormtroopers for having bad aim, right? I would have agreed with this sin, but you just had to contradict yourself.
Darth Vader could choke fools just by using a hand gesture. We learned that later on in this very movie. So why is he getting all touch me in the morning with this rebel scum, man? Vader's got to get that close to a guy who's committed his life to overthrowing the government. You get that close, homie can grab Vader's lightsaber and kill the Sith out of Mr. Suddenly Touchy-Feely. Yo, Vader, choke that chicken from across the room, bro.
First of all, not so Silent Bob. Second, the Jedi and Sith don't always use the Force to do things. The Force choke scene was Vader, and the movie, demonstrating that his ancient religion wasn't just a religion. In this scene, the film is trying to show what a powerful and imposing figure Anakin really is.
I'm not getting in bed.
Didn't Vader tell these fools he wanted passengers alive?
These are droids. They aren't alive in the first place, and any damage to them can be fixed.
Hold your fire. There's no life forms.
Unless this is the first day that droids were released to an unsuspecting buying public, everyone in the galaxy knows about droids and their capabilities, but they just let the escape pod go because of no life forms. They don't even want to shoot the thing down just to be safe, man. These guys are the biggest fuck-ups in all the Star Wars movies.
Building on the previous sin, the droids aren't alive, so when they scanned the pod for life forms, they didn't get a reading. Kevin, you're aware that they're actually looking for Leia, or whichever rebel has the stolen Death Star plans, right? So why the would they be concerned about droids in this instance? And if you think these guys are the biggest fuck-ups in all the Star Wars movies, you haven't met Jar Jar Binks.
It must have short-circuited.
Oh, right. You're right. That stupid assumption is the most likely reason for an escape pod to jettison from a recently captured rebel ship under siege.
Jesus. They just scanned the ship and recognized that there were no life forms on the pod. They are looking for Leia or any other rebels that have stolen the Death Star plans. Even if you want to assume that the Empire should have expected the rebels to give those plans to droids, this is happening over Tatooine, a bum planet that no one cares about. Who would the droids give those plans to?
An escape pod was jettisoned during the fighting, but no life forms were aboard.
You mean an escape pod? Like one escape pod? Why did the other guy say,
There goes another one?
Which implies more than one?
So you nor Silent Bob understood this? Why the hell do you guys get to make millions of dollars while I'm stuck e-begging for Patreon donors? Anyway, if you were using your frontal lobe, you'd have realized that this guy says an escape pod. He is implying that there were other escape pods. When the officers scanned the pod with R2-D2 and C-3PO, they determined that this one didn't contain any life forms, so the shooter was told to hold your fire. This bit of dialogue insinuates that they were firing on escape pods, and since one didn't have any life forms, they didn't shoot it.
R2?
Well, that's convenient. They spent the whole afternoon going in opposite directions and still got to the same place. Those Jawas cover some damn ground, man.
So it's a sin for a movie to have conveniences? Tell me, when is any event in any movie ever not a convenience? No, seriously, tell me.
Also, isn't it lucky that these things have claws that don't leave any tracks? That makes their appearance more cost-effective and unrealistic.
Says this while literally showing a scene of this animal leaving tracks.
Robot roll call.
Hey guys, here are some things that are happening on the screen. Sin.
Uncle Owen rejects droids immediately with a simple no, and knows exactly what C-3PO does just by looking at him, but mysteriously talks to him anyway. I'm guessing so C-3PO can persuade Uncle Owen to buy him.
In that ridiculous robot roll call sin, you can see that C-3PO is the only droid here capable of speaking Galactic Basic, so of course Owen speaks to him. He's the only one that can speak.
But I was
was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
All right, every right-thinking human being on the planet is gonna sin this awkward line, and it's equally sinnable reading. Heavens, we were looking for some Damon here, and we got some Affleck instead. Like when my friend Malcolm would say, I'm going to City Walk, eh? And then he'd secretly hook up with dudes at bear bars. So I'm saying Luke wanted to go to Toshi, but it wasn't his power he wanted converted. He was sneaking away for public restroom rendezvous with Arcturians, man. Male or female, don't matter, it's Arcturian, baby.
We are now skipping every line that involves Kevin Smith.
Red Droid melts down conveniently so that R2 can get a job and stay with his buddy.
Conveniences. You know what else is convenient? These droids landing on the exact planet Darth Vader was born on, where his son currently is. Why stop there? Why not point out that Obi-Wan is also here? You know, the guy that trained Darth Vader. So is Han Solo, another very important character in the series who, if they didn't meet here, Kylo Ren would have never been born. Do you get the goddamn point yet? This is a movie. Everything is convenient.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
How can you tell? It's a blue hologram full of 1970s-ness.
Despite being one up until the age of 39, Jeremy has never heard of virgins.
How is it this dark out with two suns? You'd think the combined power would make it look like daytime out here.
They're both at sunset, though. I mean, according to Alan Boss, an astrophysicist at the Carnegie Institution for Science, a circumbinary planet's sunset would look very much like the fictional Tatooine sunset. Do you guys see what I mean when I say that CinemaSins doesn't know what they're talking about?
Also, suns this close together would cause wicked insanity on this planet. One sun would hate the other sun, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Who the hell told you that? I hope it wasn't Kevin Smith. Kepler 16b disproves this nonsense. Also, Jeremy makes a Ghostbusters pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the film cliche.
Hit the accelerator.
Who's driving this thing? You or C-3PO?
Jeremy actually asks this question.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Obi-Wan basically half-truths his way through this entire movie.
Ironic, considering you're cutting out parts of the movie to make fake sins. Take this scene, for example. You've cut out the part that's showing that he's responding to being called Obi-Wan. This obviously is a name he hasn't heard since Luke was born, which is about 19 years ago.
The Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things.
And something about midichlorians, but that's not nearly as cool as what I'm saying.
I know, people hate midichlorians, but they aren't inconsistent with what Obi-Wan is saying.
It surrounds us and penetrates us.
The Force kind of sounds like a sex offender.
Oh hey, my videos aren't filled with enough cringy sexual jokes, so here's another.
Slow-ass stormtroopers only recently killed these Jawa fools. They left the Star Destroyer 1 minute after the droids, but are somehow a day and a half behind. What the f***?
There was an undetermined passage of time between the droids landing on Tatooine and Vader figuring out Leia had the plans in the escape pod. This accounts for their head start.
It looks like the Sandpeople did this all right. I've never heard of them hitting anything this big before.
They didn't. But we are meant to think they did.
Because Imperial stormtroopers know a ton about Tatooine and Sandpeople in order to frame their ass.
Except they don't, which is why Obi-Wan was able to deduce that it was, in fact, stormtroopers. This is literally shown in this scene. Why do you not watch movies that you're watching?
And these last points, too accurate for Sandpeople. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
This fucking laugh.
Oh, I see the Death Star has branded their truth serum robot, so that all visitors know this isn't some knockoff Death Star shit here.
Hey, look at that, an actual CinemaSin. I'd remove a sin here if it didn't take you 8 minutes to do what you're advertised to do.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Except Gary, Indiana, of course.
You take that back. Michael and Janet Jackson were born in Gary, Indiana.
Ew, you got some obvious Phantom Menace in my New Hope.
Considering these revisions were made before Episode 1, what you mean is you've got some 90s George Lucas in your Phantom Menace.
This iconic tavern scene does not contain an alien lap dance.
You gotta love the classic lap dance sins that Jeremy likes to pretend never happened in his recent quest to become woke. Just like on Twitter, these things will always come back to bite you in the mangina.
That's basist.
Primary ignition.
It takes 10 seconds for the Death Star to shoot its laser after this. Remember that, kids, when this takes forever later.
I don't necessarily have an issue with this sin, only that you're going to attempt to double sin this when it could have just been brought up later. Here we call that padding the sin count, bro.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Oh. Wait, what?
I'm going to ignore, and sin, Jeremy being stupid here, but I wanted to point out that the real sin in this scene is that Anakin's original lightsaber is actually greenish-white, and the re-edit of this scene does a terrible job color correcting it to blue here.
Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
Yeah, but I'm gonna guess your eyes don't deceive you as much as everything else you use to detect things. It's not like the Jedi's going around blindfolding each other before a lightsaber match.
Jesus, Jeremy, you'd have flunked out of Padawan school your first day. Obi-Wan is trying to get Luke to feel the Force. In other words, to allow it to guide his actions.
Yeah, what a bunch of bullshit that is. This asshole Luke isn't feeling the Force already after spending just a couple hours with that floaty ball.
Except the film is demonstrating that he is, directly contradicting your inane bullshit.
We come out of hyperspace and a meteor shower.
Did they get out of hyperspace just before chunks of Alderaan slammed into their ship?
Yes? What the f*** is this question? Did you expect them to get hit by the remains of Alderaan while they were in hyperspace? You're aware they set coordinates to go to Alderaan, right?
Also lucky is that the Death Star just happens to be around Alderaan right now. That way you can save Princess Leia and this trip won't be meaningless.
Alright, 20 cents for this nonsense, and no, I'm not going to waste time explaining why this was dumb.
They must be trying to return the stolen plans to the princess. She may yet be of some use to us.
You can't possibly think that they'll get the idea to rescue Leia from her prison, or that they'll even find out she's here. Remember, it takes a crazy-ass plan to get into the control room and R2 messing around with the computer to even find out that information. Even if you have an idea to capture them, put them in Leia's cell, and hope she blabs to them about where the secret base is, this is silly. Leia bullshit you and proved too strong for the mind probe, so she's officially useless. Darth Vader needs to start setting up charges on the Millennium Falcon, take the Death Star plans back, destroy Luke, and execute Leia at the same time, while his children get baptized in the Catholic Church, Godfather style.
You're aware that Vader has some form of precognitive ability, yes? I mean, that ability is literally the reason he is Darth Vader and not Anakin Skywalker any longer.
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
Since when? Since when?
Since he lost the high ground on Mustafar. This video came out in 2015. You know what he's talking about, you ignorance-feigning, slimy piece of worm-ridden filth.
There's no one here.
They've already reported to Vader that no one is here, so these stormtroopers were sent on the ship to basically, what? Walk around and confirm what the last crew of stormtroopers just did a second ago?
If you listen to the orders Vader gives the officer, you'd have heard Vader say that he wanted a scanning crew, meaning this part of the crew is better equipped to find those that are hiding.
And why did Obi-Wan get his own compartment while Luke and Han had to go three-way with the Wookiee? That beats my fanfiction, but why?
Everything wrong with Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. Obi-Wan got his own compartment.
Scanning the ship requires loading this huge cumbersome box on the ship itself. I know this is set a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but you have technology that beats us here in 2015. And I know that simple heat signature technology would tell us there are assholes on this ship.
This is still a movie that was made in the 70s. Besides, in 2015, we had cell phones that were more powerful than the computers they used in this movie, so what they actually have is technology that is simply different than ours.
Phallic data extraction.
Jeremy says boner.
Also, thankfully, the Death Star has a computer port that has access to the entire station that also happens to match R2-D2's output thingy.
You've made this mistake before. R2-D2 is an astromech droid. These things are ubiquitous throughout the galaxy. This is like asking for a computer without a USB port. At the beginning of this movie, you can clearly see that the Empire uses astromech droids like this R2 and R4 unit.
What is it?
I'm afraid I'm not quite sure, sir. He says I found her and keeps repeating she's here.
Who? Who has he found?
Princess Leia.
You just said you didn't know who he was talking about, and R2-D2 has not said anything since the conversation started.
What? He did not say he didn't know who R2 was talking about. He said that he isn't sure what he's talking about. Either you're manipulating your audience or you're dumb. Both are sins.
Well, more wealth than you can imagine.
Luke is drawn by the power of boners to take on the whole goddamn Death Star, and Han is drawn by the power of money boners.
Jeremy says boner twice.
There is no way the Empire created something so innocent and jovial.
You're right. They didn't. The mouse droid was created by Rebaxon. You'd be surprised how much of the equipment the Empire uses isn't actually made by them.
There's something alive in here.
The Empire just recently threw a live swimming creature into this garbage disposal, just before our heroes jumped down in it. Because how else would it have survived the numerous amounts of compacting unless it's Gumby or some shit?
As I always explain to you, questions have answers. You cannot say something is wrong or bad simply because you cannot explain it. That is called the argument from ignorance fallacy. Anyway, here's the answer straight from the horse's mouth.
But then there's some kind of creature living in this thing with them who, can kill them. And then on top of that, it's a crusher that crushes garbage and it'll crush them all. How am I going to get Luke free from this monster? And you have lots of choices, and obviously the easiest one is to have a hand shoot it and let it go and go away, but that isn't much fun. So when you get in there and you know where things are going, then when the walls start to close, the Ninoga runs away and hides in a little space that protects him from the walls.
As an aside, I think tracking down the audio commentary for this film is worth a Patreon donation or two, wouldn't you say? No? Okay.
How does Luke get swallowed whole by the shallow water this creature is in?
Asks a question while literally showing the answer. CinemaSins, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, at this point, Luke is dead. That dude drowned. He comes from a desert planet with virtually no water, and no practice with water. He's out of his element.
I'm totally fine with your line of reasoning, even though I'm sure simply holding your breath underwater is a universal human ability. What I have a problem with is the fact that you didn't apply this same logic to Rey in The Last Jedi.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Basically, I'll be able to occasionally talk to Luke through ghost power. So there.
Being an immortal Force ghost that can train an untold number of Jedi for eternity says, suck my lightsaber.
Here's a blanket, Luke. Wouldn't want you to catch cold or some shit.
Catch cold? The f*** is that?
They're tracking us.
Not this ship, sister.
Well, your male confidence certainly is convincing.
Your male confidence? The f*** is that?
An analysis of the plans provided by Princess Leia.
Princess Leia.
This coming from the guy that pronounces Mosasaurus as Mosasaurus.
I agree, Stan, but what's your real purpose here?
I just wanted to say that you're no better because you pronounce the Malaysian language as Malay. Anyone want to play some Smash Brothers Malaysian language? I brought my GameCube.
Future Birdman! Already on it. Come here, nerd. I got a game for you.
For some reason, the Death Star doesn't use its tractor beam to render these ships useless. Obi-Wan turned it off, but he didn't destroy it.
Couple things wrong with this. First, X-Wings are small and nimble, which would necessarily mean that it would be more difficult for the tractor beam to latch on. Second, Tarkin didn't believe the X-Wings to be a threat, so using the beam on them when they had superior forces would be a waste of time. Third, if it's a tractor beam, that means the beam has some kind of limits, such as width or only being able to do one ship at a time. And finally, Obi-Wan sabotaged the tractor beam. It wouldn't be much of a sabotage if they knew about it and could just turn it back on.
We've analyzed their attack, sir, and there is a danger. Should I have your ship standing by?
Or maybe get some of our ships in formation over the one weakness this entire space station has, so that a direct hit doesn't destroy us.
The exhaust port / Kyber weakness isn't something the Empire knows about, let alone considers a weakness. This plot point is the entire point of this movie!
Use the Force, Luke.
Your targeting computer is a piece of dog shit, Luke.
Oh hey, we've gotten to the part of the CinemaSins video where they couldn't find an actual sin, so they're just saying random bullshit over an iconic scene and hitting the ding sound so it seems like they have a point.
How come Chewbacca doesn't get a medal, man? He was in the Falcon too. He helped take out Vader and save Luke's ass. And look, he even yells about it. At this point he goes like, where's my medal?
Shut up, Kevin. Hey Jeremy, pro tip, never have someone in your videos that names their kids after comic book characters. You can be sure that they're going to say a lot of bullshit.
Yes, I bet you have.
I'm Luke.